Hey, good morning. We have live breaking news this morning coming in from the News and Brews desk. I believe we've got Drew Crow sitting down with our first guest of the day, Shannon Nelson. Over to you, Drew.
Thank you for tossing it over, and you are right. I'm with Shannon Nelson of Firetrace. Shannon, thank you so much for spending this morning with me and hanging out with me and spending time. How you doing this morning?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
You up? You brought the sun with you.
Hey.
Thank you so much. Good West Coast love. So let's hop right into it. First, I want to talk about Firetrace and what you guys do for the industry. I see you everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And it would be remiss of me to not call you the hardest working person, one of the hardest working people in manufacturing. We see each other coast to coast, show to show. When I'm not at shows, when you're not at shows, we see you traveling. Everybody follows your license plates on LinkedIn. We love it. You're all over the world. But you are in an industry that, no secret, has been dominated by men. How are you finding success, the success that you're having in this industry that's not traditionally built for people like yourself?
Absolutely. And you mentioned something, and something I knew early on. My career has been dominated in male-dominated industries, if you will. I knew that I was going to have to outwork these men. I was going to have to outwork anybody else because I don't have experience. But for me, a challenge, I welcome it. Bring it on. Let's go. I'm ready. So a large part of me knew that I was going to have to work harder. So when you see me coast to coast at these shows doing what I do, it's because I know that that's what I have to do to be successful.
Was there some time or some experience that you had in the industry or in life where that became a reality to you? Like, how did that become ingrained in you that I have a space here, I deserve my space here, I can do great here even though I'm not well represented here, but I'm going to have to put my head down and I'm going to have to outwork everybody? When did that become a reality for you?
I would say that mentality started at a young age, and some of that had to do with the way my father was raised. So it was the way I was raised. He was raised in an underrepresented community, and so I was raised very much to go out and get it. It's not going to be offered to you. You've got to go out and get what you want. So that was ingrained in me very early on. As far as where I stand now, as a woman in a male-dominated industry, is that exact same fiber.
Yeah. How do you, when you travel, you are not just showing up and taking space and being who you are in these rooms and in these spaces and standing on what you know and the great job that you do, but you are present online and you take pictures and you show yourself in these spaces. Do you do that because you feel like you have some type of duty for the people that are coming behind you, for the people that are watching you, to see your resiliency and maybe see that they can do this as well?
Absolutely. And the one thing I will say, in the male-dominated space, me being humble and leaning into your knowledge, anybody else's knowledge, has been the key to my success. As long as I'm quiet and I listen and I study, that's a huge part of it. Oftentimes I hear women say, Shannon, what is wrong with you? Why do you want to go into an industry where it's male-dominated? I prefer that. And with that said, again, is being open. Because I haven't had a man in this industry yet say, I'm not going to help you.
Can we stop? Can we touch on that real quick?
Sure.
Because a lot of times, I'm known for, quote unquote, calling things out in the industry. Mm-hmm. But I heard somebody say, Drew, you're not calling them out, you're calling them up. Mm. And if we can hold people accountable and talk about how things are, we can make you a better you, right? And then we have a better version of our industry. And a lot of times people hear us calling out this problem of women not being well represented in our industry, and they feel like it villainizes the men that are in this industry. But that's not necessarily the case. It's not a men versus woman situation. We can lift each other up. How have you found success from male counterparts? How have they been good allies to you? Maybe mentorship, sponsorship. What can we do as men to make this a more palatable industry for more women like yourself to be represented?
Absolutely. One thing is to not be intimidated. A lot of people say, why do you do it? I refuse to remain stagnant. I've walked into meetings and I've had, more recently, a gentleman asked me, Shannon, why are you in high heels? I said, why do my high heels bother you? This has nothing to do with our meeting. I'm always prepared. I got steel toes in my trunk. I can go get those if I need them. But you can't be easily deterred from the past. So it's absolutely not men versus women. Like I said, I have wonderful men that I lean into, and they've been wonderfully supportive.
Absolutely. And from the success that we see you having all around, from coast to coast, I think everybody knows who you are and knows your company. How does it feel to have overcome some of these things and build that reputation? And again, do you feel like it is a duty to represent ourselves as the least represented more and more?
100%. Being a woman in this space, we talk a lot about tolerance when we're machining parts, right? There's a tolerance, be that for functionality, aesthetics, but where's the tolerance for who we're hiring? Be it a third of Americans, 80% of the population, has some type of criminal record.
Yes, yes.
Women aren't represented necessarily well in this space. So when we speak of tolerance, tolerance has to relate to individuals and the hiring pool, not just parts that are being machined.
I love that, especially as a justice-impacted individual. This is a fight that I fight for people with F's on their report card like myself. So thank you so much for the advocacy that you do on a daily basis for people like myself and being an ally for me. I really appreciate that. Let's get into Firetrace and what you all do. So we look at this conference and we look at the things that are being made and the machines that they're being made with. And these are oftentimes, millions and millions of dollars, not to mention the amount of things that they're making and the money that they're making if they keep these going. And we're moving into Industry 4.0, which means more automation, which means more robots, which means cobots, which means lights out shifts, people running machines, making money, not being around. What happens when, accidents happen?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we are the leading manufacturer of fire suppression systems in microenvironments. Specific to the machining space, that's EDM machines, dust collectors, mist collectors, CNC machines cutting specifically with oil. So whether you're running lights out, automated, decreased work accidents, lightly attended, so on and so forth, our system will automatically suppress that fire, detect and suppress, shut the machine down, stop feeding oxygen. So your asset has been protected, you've got a life save, your livelihood isn't impacted, and you're back. You could be back up and running in a matter of hours.
Okay, so we're saving companies how much on average by having these types of systems in place?
Ooh, so that varies. We had someone about a year ago that had a fire, and it was a very large corporation. Can't say any names. They said hourly they were losing about $300,000. We were able to have somebody out there. They had our system. It put out the fire. We had a distributor back out there, back up and running on hour 2.
That's crazy service. So you guys service the whole United States?
Yes, absolutely.
And you guys service our whole industry?
Yes.
Okay, well, there's another fire in our industry that needs putting out, and that's a skills gap. That's a workforce gap, and that's a diversity gap. And going back to some of the things that we were just talking about, what would you suggest our industry could start to do to put some of these fires out that we're facing?
It's imperative for early intervention. Again, some of my passion comes from a father who was severely dyslexic. And I think about him being in an underrepresented, underserved community. And had that challenge been identified earlier, it may have changed his path. So I think that we have a duty to get in there, get active, understand, and maybe even drive their passion. They don't know if we're not in there early. Being the underserved, again, I feel very passionate about that. Not everybody can get to certain events, so we've got to go to them. Get in early, put out the word, let them know what the options are, what their choices look like, but I do believe that we should serve as a vessel for their passion.
It should be intentional, right?
And deliberate, absolutely.
Intentional and deliberate. And I think that you definitely touched on two things that are great first steps. Let's get them aware. Let's show them where these things are happening. Let's show them why they're happening, how they fit in. But I think there's something else that you said, like giving them access to those things is just as important. Do you see any, you visit a lot of shops, you go a lot of places, do you see anywhere that is particularly standing out that is removing some barriers for people to industry or helping with that last part, the access? And if not, what can we do to provide that? What are some ideas?
Sure. I'm going to shout out my own company because
No problem.
that is a driving force to us to be active in the community, speaking to people of all age ranges, opening up those opportunities, and the encouragement for us to get out there. We're even given time off to go out there and volunteer for things that we're passionate about. So we are given that time at work to make a difference.
Fantastic. So be intentional, be deliberate, build this into your company's business plan. Going out to seek people that look like not the people that are traditionally in our doors, but building bridges to communities that aren't necessarily represented, that can help us do things like solve this skills problem, solve this workforce problem, and connect more people to our industry that reflects the world around us. Thank you so much, Shannon. Do you have any closing words for us?
Get out there and get after it. Don't allow yourself to be intimidated. You're only confined by the walls and barriers that you make for yourself. There's no reason to not bring your whole self to work. Connect, be connected, be a human. The human element in this is critical as well. That not only builds trust, but a community.
All right, there you have it. Mic drop. Thank you all for tuning in to this interview with Shannon Nelson. Stay tuned for more from IME West News and Brews.